Welcome viewers, I'm Uncle Mark. Just going to do front brakes of my wife's van, and I'm going to take you along. I'm going to try to do it step by step, so hopefully if you're going to try yourself, there won't be any surprises. So first thing after I jack the van up is get the tire off. Get a jack stand under somewhere there securely, because you never know how your jack is going to hold up. If you saw how a jack's put together, you would probably not trust it either. Couple bolts on the back here, 13 millimeter. Well, I take these off, I'm going to loosen them. There will be skippable chapters in this video, so if you get stuck somewhere, you want to go back, or you want to skip ahead, those come out pretty easy. I'm just going to give it a little pry on the actual caliper, not on the brakes themselves. Although I guess if you replace them, it wouldn't matter, but they're not going to go anywhere anyway. Got one of these little caliper holding devices. I'll actually try and put a link in the description. I bought these, they weren't very expensive. Used them a few times already. Work pretty good. I'm just going to pop out the brake pads. These I'm going to reuse. I did these brakes a while back without doing the rotors. Got a lot of heck in the description or in the comments about it. It's like, well, the rotors were not bad, but now they're getting down. Now that's a little squealer there. When your pads get low enough, the rotor will squeal on that thing. Warn you that it's brake time. So there's a couple more bolts behind here that are holding the caliper bracket onto the hub. These are a little bigger. Looks like they're 21, I believe. 21 millimeter. There's two of them. There's one at the bottom, one at the top. Finding they're on tight enough, you might have to just tap your wrench with the hammer. As long as you're tapping it the right way. I'm doing the driver's side. Passenger side is basically the same. Some of these rotors have a screw holding them in, but not on the Dodgers. I think they're all like this. It's just your wheel and your brakes holding it on. Got my new rotors in here, holding them brand new. And I'm going to sit it on backwards. Yes, backwards. I'll show you why in a second. Just let it hang there because I want to clean it. It's easier to clean it hanging. Sometimes they have oils or things on them, or like a wax. That won't be good for the brakes, so I'm just cleaning it up. This one didn't seem to have much on there. I'm actually using a nickel. This is an anti-seize, but it's nickel. So what the nickel does is it's good for dissimilar metals. So maybe a dissimilar metal might be like aluminum touching a steel, something like that. I'm not sure what this hub is made out of, but not sure what that's made out of either. All I know is next time I take it off, it's going to fall off. Just like you saw in the picture here. Cleaning the other side as well. Now this is the caliper bracket. I'm going to try and clean it up a little bit. What I'm showing you here is these little slides. You may want to take note how they're sitting there. I'll show you a little closer. I had some issues with the camera, so I don't actually have some video of me putting them back in, but they're fairly simple to understand. You may want to clean those grooves out with a wire brush or something. Now these should just spin and the rubber should come off. I'm going to pull these out because I want to clean them up and put some new lube in there. If your brakes have been kind of making knocking sounds when you drive over stuff, it might not be a front end part, it might be these, the oil or grease has just gotten old and displaced itself. Maybe it's some of it's come out. I'm going to clean in that groove as well. Want everything nice and clean since you're taking everything apart. I'm going to do them both so you understand how that comes. This might be a good time to give me the thumbs up if you're enjoying the video and it's already being helpful. If you do that now, you won't forget later. Help YouTube know that I'm trying to do a good job. I know I should have the rubber gloves on both hands. I'm going to try and just dig a little bit of that old grease out of this rubber boot as well. It's a little bit hard to get in this. I think I'm just going to take a screwdriver and just scrape out as much as I can. And it'll probably be good. Most of the grease is going to be inside anyway, inside that caliper bracket, but I'll try this one as well. So talking about that caliper bracket, I'm going to try and clean it up. I'm just going to spray some brake clean in there. And pretty hard to get a paper towel in there, but if I loosen it up a little bit, maybe a rag would work. Might be a little easier. Try maybe that on a screwdriver. Screwdriver's probably a little big. Anyway, you get the whole point behind it. Good to have that cleaned out if you can. Like I said, I was just using brake clean. Yeah, it's gonna be easier if I used a rag or maybe a smaller screwdriver. Who knows how old this stuff is in here? Could be original to the van. I've lubed up these pins before, but I haven't cleaned this out before, so probably a good idea. Like I say, I don't know how hot this stuff gets in here, if it gets hot at all. Anyway, once I'm satisfied it's clean enough, I'm going to dry it out with, I blew air in here after with a compressor. Or I guess you could just hang it upside down, let it dry for 10 minutes or something like that. Brake clean usually dries fairly quickly. So, and especially if it's hot outside, it should evaporate pretty quick. Guess the guy could maybe just lay it on its side, maybe not upside down. Either way, want that one nice and clean. You get the point. I'm also going to try and clean where the boot clips on to this part. Just want it clean, right? Now, this is what I'm using. It's brake loop. It's this one is actually synthetic, but doesn't have to be. So I'm just going to put some on these sliding pins, brakes caliper pins. I'll make sure that it's going to fill the cavity that it's going into. Hopefully this isn't too much. Put the boot back on. Make sure it clips in that edge there. That's good. And then I'm going to put a little bit in the actual caliper bracket itself. Make sure there's enough in there. Now I'm going to add some to the caliper bracket itself. Will those pins slide in? Not really sure how much. Just if I put too much in there, it'll just push it out. There's going to be air in there now too, because this stuff's a little bit thick. So I'm going to spin it around, and I can feel the air pushing back. It's almost like there's a spring in there, which there isn't. You can actually hear it go tick as the air kind of squeezes by. So I want to make sure this is nice and clean. Don't want dirt in there. I think I have enough in here, so I'm just going to snap that boot down where it clips on there. And that should be fairly good. Also do the other side. Put a little bit in the hole. Same thing. Give it a spin. You can see how it's got a little bit of resistance. And I can see some of the old grease still coming out. It's like, I cleaned it. Oh well. Let me put a little more in there, maybe not. I want to see if sideways too, if it's got enough grease in there. I just put another dab in there. That might be enough. Wipe it off. Make sure it clicks on there so no dirt gets in there. It's fiddly. Come on. There I go. Good. It's on. Clean it up a little bit too. It should be pretty good. Now there's these little clips that are supposed to go in these spots here. You'll probably want to clean them up with wire brush or something. And you'll see here where these clips are going to go in for the sliding, for the pads. The back is higher than the front. And if there's a clip, mounting clip, it always goes on the outside, the big ones, not on the inside. I'll show you what the clips look like here. I lost some of this video, so I can't show you me installing them, but this is the pack of clips here. So see with them installed in here, the backs are higher and the fronts are lower, and if there's a side mounting clip and it's big, it sticks always on the outside. I'll show you another angle of this. So again, big mounting clips always go on the outside. And there should be enough of these, and they'll be different shapes. They never face the inside. There might be a little clip, but not the bigger ones. You don't want that hitting the rotor. And again, you can see the back is higher than the front, so sit those clips in there. It'll make sense when you try and put them in. Now we have the caliper mounting bracket put back in. And it goes in kind of funny. It actually goes in between the other bracket and the rotor. So the bolt goes through the hub and then screws into the bracket. Once you get the one in, you might have to wiggle it around to get the other one in. I'm using a 3/16. I don't know where my metric went. 75 foot-pounds, I believe, is what it's supposed to be. Should snug them both up first, the top and the bottom, and then once they're fairly tight, do the torquing. There you go. Now I'm going to put a little bit of lube on this piston. This is going to be rubbing against one of the pads, and it'll just stop it from it. Sometimes they end up squeaking. These little fingers as well for the other pads to touch that. And if you have salt in your location, you could do these as well. Maybe if you don't have a whole lot of corrosion going on, maybe better not to, just because it may attract dirt. Although I check these usually every year or every 2 years. I'll go and just lube up these slider pins and just check on stuff. I'll put a little bit on here as well. Like I say, you could always skip this if you don't have. Here in Manitoba, Canada, they use a fair bit of salt. We're in lots of snow, so they're going to be wet all the time, and then whatever else. And that's where the piston's going to push against. Now I'm reusing these. As you can see, they're almost new. I had replaced them a while back, and I didn't do the rotors. Got a little bit of flack for that in the video that I did there, but it's like, well, they didn't really need rotors, and they were working fine, but they got bad enough that they started warping a little bit. I'll just slip this in here, give you a different angle as to how I'm doing this. A little bit tricky with this little arm in front, but just stick one in and then move it. May slide around a little bit. I'm going to pop the cap off my brake fluid just so that if I have to squish the piston in a little bit, and probably will be. Probably should have squished it in before I put the goo on there. I'd pre-fit this though, and that's a good idea. Just pre-fit before you do all that. Now these slider pins might give me an issue as well. Just that they may not go in as far as you would thought. Piston might need a little bit of pushing. I was able to just give a little bit of, what would you call that, pressure there. The top one went in okay. Bottom one I think is going to give me some trouble. So I'm just going to use a screwdriver between them to just, you see how I'm getting it in there. A couple more taps with my hand. Now I find these things never line up properly. You're trying to get the bolt in and it's just not, it's going to fight all the way. It's turning, but it's not lining up. You need to move the caliper up or down or sideways or all of the above. It'll be easier once one is in. Maybe I should try the top first. So I'm going to actually put something in the bolt holder and try and line it up a little bit. I'm not going to guarantee this is going to work either. It's hard to say which way it might have to move. Yeah, see. Might as well show you it's a struggle. I've seen guys show you it's like, oh, it just goes in. It's like, not necessarily. Okay, it looks like that one's working. Try and get the bottom one to go in there now as well. Now those pins may want to spin when a guy is, oh, you can see it, the whole thing's turning there. If you just grab it with like needle nose pliers or something like that, just enough to hold it from spinning, it'll kind of snug up fairly quick, and that's all I used. Now I apologize, I don't know what the torque spec is on this. I tried looking up in the book I have, and it gives me the torque spec for the other bolts, but not this one. At least I couldn't find it. So I'm just going to make them pretty tight. Don't want to snap them off. Now I don't want to forget to put this brake cap back on. Make sure the level's okay. Level's fine. That's not too low or nothing. If it was too low, you have a problem. Now I'm going to use some more of this nickel. The nickel anti-seize. I'm going to put it on right here where the rim is going to make contact. I'm not putting them on the studs. And you'll see here, like I've got a couple different rims. These are my summer rims. These are aluminum. You can see how it's been corroding. So you just kind of put them around there and then set them on. These are my winter rims, and that's what we're going to use now. And a guy could either slather it on there or, and I find the contacts are different on the two different rims. So that's why I put it fairly wide there. Never really had these steel wheels have a problem because I think it's steel on steel, but when you get the aluminum on a steel surface, then it wants to corrode and almost rusts on. So put these on. And of course I'm going to torque them in a crisscross pattern, skipping every second lug nut. So if you keep skipping every second one, eventually you're going to be... I'm just going to kind of snug them. I've got it set at like about 75 foot-pounds. Now I'm going to do the major torque here. I believe it's at 100 foot-pounds. And amazingly enough, better check them within like 30, 40, 50 miles, or 50, 60, 70, 80 kilometers, or maybe a little further. Depends on how far you're driving. Especially with the aluminum rims, I find a lot of times they'll kind of come loose. It's good to have a torque wrench. If you don't have one, get one. This is a 1/2-inch torque wrench. Use it quite a bit. You'll never be able to guess the proper torque of these. I'm going to pull my safety jack stand out. Pull that out, and I think I'm done. Well, that's going to do it for the video. Hopefully you liked it and it was helpful. That's the main thing. Don't forget to give me the thumbs up if you can. You can subscribe down in the corner if you haven't already. Not sure why you wouldn't already have been a subscriber. Let me put a playlist right here. Dodge Caravan playlist. Lots of stuff. I'm going to have this. We've had this van for many years already. We'll have it for a few more. Plus there's some newer vans too. My boss has 3 of these vans. So a lot of times we end up working on them as well. You and your family stay safe. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye for now from Uncle Mark. Please subscribe and you'll get all the notifications. It's easy. The little dog will show you how. Ring the bell. Ring the bell. $13. Was able to mishmash something together that helped you a little bit.